What? She's laughing already. What is shaking, y'all? It's your boy, Mark Cordone, episode 71, Golden Mike Live. Let me cut it off for a second. Have you ever felt like you're living your life with integrity? Have you ever felt that you're doing things all the right way and all around you is darkness? All around you is the urge to try to cut corners. Our guest today, Allison Wagner, has lived true to the Olympic spirit of integrity, respect, honor, dedication. And she did it in a time during the darkest days of the Olympics when people were all doped up asshats. And she still dominated the sport. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the idea of what does that mean for us to be living our lives in integrity and with respect, honor, and dedication to ourselves in the pursuit of excellence. And we're going to have a whole lot of fun doing it. If you haven't met me, I'm your boy, Mark Cordone. I'm the founder of the Make Money Coaching Program, but more importantly, I'm a positive psychology coach, which means two things, y'all. Two things. Are you feeling good? And are you living your life in its fullest purpose? So if you're feeling good, if you're feeling happy, that's one thing. If you're living your life in its fullest purpose and both of those things are happening at the same time, you don't need me, baby. You don't need me. Just live your life. Live your life and do your thing. So Allison Wagner, we're about to go into your story, mama. So the big question I have for you is this. Are you feeling happy and living in your full purpose today?
I think it's always a process, you know. It's like I liken a lot of things to swimming. Since I spend so much time in the water, there are waves, and you just try to figure out if the waves are lessening and you need to do something to amp it up, or if you need to dodge an obstacle and go in a different direction, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm in process.
I love it. I love the in process piece. Now, for those of you who are watching live and are watching the replay, if you're feeling the same thing, if you're feeling like you're in process, give us some hearts. Allison, how do you give some hearts over there in California? You're like opening your eyes. You're like, Cordone.
I think it's the same way. I don't know. That's not even a heart. That's like a donut.
Give Alice and I some donut hearts. You see the button down there. Let us know that you're alive and living life. This is the other thing, y'all. A lot of people think that positive psychology is about like Taco Tuesday every day, shits and giggles 24/7. We're always happy. Allison hit it right on the head. It really is a process. It's about the ups and downs and all arounds of life. So if you're sitting here right now and it's a Thursday and you're like, Cordone, you know what? I was like completely happy last week. I was a 10 out of 10. And you know what? I ate some bad shellfish. I'm like a 1 today. Yeah, that's part of life. It's part of life to get out of bed and feel not happy someday. It's also part of life to say, I've been living my purpose, focusing on this one thing for 20 years. And suddenly now that I've achieved it, my purpose is shifting. That's okay too. If you're a little bit in dissonance and you're like, I'm in process, give me a thumbs up. Give us Alice and I a thumbs up. Let us know that you're living life, because that's just part of your hero's journey. Your heart is beating just like the rest of us. All right. Oh my gosh, people are already jumping in the question section, Allison.
All right, great.
Ask your questions. Now here's the last thing. Let's see if we can get Wagner to do this. It's been a part of the Golden Mike, and I'm not going to stop just because she's an Olympic hero. There's another button down there. Whether you feel like you're flourishing, whether you feel like you're in process, whether you feel like times are changing and it's in flux, if you're feeling hopeful and optimistic about the future, Wagner, I want to see you make it.
What?
Give us a big old wow face. What does Wagner's wow face look like? So Laura, I see you down there. We're going to get to your question in a second. But thank you for sticking around, Allison, and making the wow face, which is like the oh shit shock face. But I want to know, with all of that said, what's your story, Allison?
Well, we met because I was giving a talk on resilience at the World Happiness Summit. And basically 2 years ago, I started talking to whoever was interested in hearing about the problems with the Olympics, specifically with doping. And that's led to a variety of different conversations and opportunities to share my story in hopes of helping the greater good.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. You were a swimmer. Like, I think you took the water, like your first competitive swim in like Germany or something, right? Like when you were little Allison, right?
Yeah.
So like, was it all like, is that all you thought about as a kid, was swimming and dominating the sport?
I thought a lot about swimming as of like age 7, 8. And I spent a lot of time thinking about art and reading. Those were all my things. Like I was passionate, and horseback riding. So, I was just a normal kid thinking about a lot of different things, but I was a very athletic kid, and there were a couple options for sports, and swimming was the only one that I was even halfway good at. So I pursued swimming.
So it was the piece that you felt like you were the best at.
Well, I still am no good with it. The other choice is soccer and softball. Like I'm still just like a ball. No.
So when was it for you that you felt like, yo, like I want to go after like the Olympic? Like when was the point that you started like going from like a hobby to like really something that you were very, very, very dedicated towards?
Well, I think like a lot of kids, I watched the Olympics on TV as a young kid, and I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. And then, I didn't really ever think it was definitely a possibility. But when I was about 12, I started noticing that I was gaining some interesting attention from other people for my accomplishments. And I was like, okay, so maybe I'm kind of good at this. And then when I was 14, I almost made the Olympic team. I jumped from being 71st in the country to 5th in one race. And so then I was like, oh, wait, I actually have a shot at this. Whoa, okay.
So was this like, did you change like coaches behind this? Like what does the support structure of a person going after the Olympics look like? Or was it just you ruggedly doing it on your own?
Yeah, I think support structures are nice, but they're not altogether necessary in the way people think they're necessary.
Okay, so you don't have to get the perfect coach, and you don't have to get the Olympic coach. Okay.
No. I mean, and sometimes those coaches don't even help that much, but you'll think they're going to help that much because they'll tell you they'll help that much. So it's a human body experience, just like I'm sure the kind of coaching you do, like it's really ultimately up to the person to be holding hands with the coach and you working together and collaborating. And for me as a kid, I really struggled with, I grew up military, so I put a lot of pressure on, or a lot of respect and credibility into my coach. But I wish I had questioned things more, because there were plenty of things I did and just took from the coach that he suggested that weren't that helpful. But, in reality, like he was just making suggestions because he was a coach and I was a kid. I just thought, okay, I got to do this. But I think, the way I've coached kids now is something I wish I had gotten, which is, listen, you've got to try this out and we've got to make sure that this works for you. And, of course, there are times where you go, okay, you're being a brat and, we're going to make sure you understand what respect is. But, as for me as a kid, as an adult, you recognize what you needed as a kid. But, there's the short answer is there's too much pressure, I think, on parents with kids who are in sports to put them in this like ideal program, with like the best coaches and the best everything. And that could be great. But, really it's ultimately up to the kids, got to have that fire in them. And, I just wanted to crush people as a kid.
I was gonna say it didn't feel like you had that external pressure. It feels like you had that kind of competitive spirit already.
I did. Yeah. I mean, I was the type of kid that needed to be slowed down. Like I was the type of kid who needed to go, okay, chill out. No more training. No more training today.
Okay, like were you the intense person who was like, yeah, yeah, yeah? Like,
I was
were you
very
that
quiet.
person?
No, I was very quiet and
Really?
shy. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
But I was intense.
So,
Definitely intense. Yeah.
okay, so we're now we've gone from 71st to 5th, which I also think is an amazing thing because a lot of people think that in life you have to step things up very gradually, but like oftentimes when you're doing things that you're passionate about, you can go from 71 to 5 almost overnight, and that's what you did. And so you almost made the team when you were 14. um I'm guessing that this is the point where you're like, I almost made the team, I'm going to make the team the next time. Is that where your head was at? And what was that looking like for the next, like, what, 2 years before the next trials?
Yeah. So I guess I shouldn't say I almost made the team. I was 5th and they take the top 2. So I was closer
Okay.
than I ever thought I'd get. And at that point, yeah, I said, okay, I'm going to devote all my time to this. I mean, I was in school but I was going to devote, every spare second to that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And for those of you who don't know, like, Allison was in the 96 Olympics in Atlanta. So like what was it like once you got the time trials and you made the team? Were you completely thrilled that you would be, or were you like expecting it? Like, okay, that's part of my progression. I knew I was going to make the team. I'm going after gold. Or were you
Yeah,
like
by that
like
point,
shocked?
no, by that point, I was, dominating the sport in the country, and I had one competitor I was kind of concerned about, but I wasn't. I was unfortunately not celebratory enough. I was so focused on the Olympics, and I wanted to set another world record. Like I was just, my standards were so high that I kind of missed out on the moments of gratitude I wish I would have had just for making the team.
Let's talk about that for a second. What do you mean by not celebratory enough?
I never celebrated really any of my accomplishments at the time. I just looked at them like, okay, well, next, like, what am I doing next?
Wow.
When I made the Olympic team, I was, like I said, I was dominating the country. So it didn't feel like a really amazing accomplishment just because of my personal standard. Like I didn't perform a best performance for me. And so I was like, well, for me, I was just looking at things like, well, I want to do better.
Mm.
And in my absorption in that, I missed the fact that, like, I had just qualified to represent my country in the Olympics. It didn't matter that I didn't do better.
Yeah.
It mattered that I was representing my country. But in the moment, in that time frame, like I said, I wish I was more grateful at that time because
Sure.
I was just focused on personal achievement. Like I wanted to better myself and my performance. And I wasn't doing that at the time. But at the same time, I made an Olympic team. So it was,
Sure. Absolutely.
yeah.
Now let's talk when, I mean, I was in Piedmont Park and you were walking with the Olympic team through the stadium. Like, how does that actually feel when you know the entire world is watching you? Did that sink in yet? Or were you just focused on like, or you were just focused on like, let me come out and then let me go back to, the Olympic Village and just get ready for my meets for the races? Like, what's going through the mind of someone who's looking out into the crowd like that? And you were
Yeah.
what, 17, 18?
18.
18. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't attend the opening ceremonies because my first race was the next morning.
Okay. Okay.
And so I walked out into the deck for my first race. And because it was so early on the first day, I was one of the first Americans to compete at the games. And the crowd knew it. So when I walked onto the deck, all 20, maybe 30,000, I forget exactly how many people were there, started chanting my last name. And they were going, Wagner, Whack. And I was like, holy.
Did you like recognize them? Like, did you give them a little wave, or were you just like
No,
totally
I
just
was
getting
so
ready
in
for
the
the
bubble. I didn't expect that at all. And you're in a little bathing suit and like half naked out there. It's like, whoa, this is surreal. Yeah.
Okay.
You
Okay.
feel like just so little and vulnerable at that moment. It's just like, oh my God.
How was the pressure of that moment? Like you're standing there on the blocks, everybody's going, Wagner. Like, what is going through your heart right now?
Well, you're just so excited. And if you're a sensitive person, you just pick up on it all. And you're just like, I'm flying like 20 stratospheres above where I am. You're just like, ah.
I'm sure that when like the ready, the sort of the ready goes, and then the start, the part, is it the pistol or a whistle? It's a pistol, right?
Yeah, gun.
Right,
Yeah.
the gun. When the gun goes off, I'm sure that you just went into like major focus mode.
Yeah, I guess I should say beeper. It's not even a gun anymore.
What it is.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you practice so much for this, and when the starter starts a race, I'm focused on what I need to do and playing my strategy out, and also trying to be open to changing my strategy in every moment, depending on all the different factors I'm monitoring in the race.
Okay, so you're going into just straight up like you're going into the mechanics of things here, and I take it that you're not feeling the nerves anymore when you're in the water because you've done it so many times.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, the nerve part is more like it gets you amped up. And for me, I was always trying to calm down, because I was trying to save energy, because it's quite a energy expenditure, the whole process. Plus, I did the hardest race in the sport, and this race was just a gut wrencher. I tell people, like, at the end of this race, I've never had this experience elsewhere, and I haven't heard anybody else describe this experience. I'm sure lots of people have had it, but you have like lactic acid has nowhere else to go. It starts seeping into your face, and then you can't move your mouth to breathe because the lactic acid is freezing the muscles in your face. It's like, oh, it's so torturous. Oh my
so
God.
Wagner, you had a permanent wow face. You had a permanent wow face.
More like this.
Wagner.
It's frozen.
So, okay. You swam multiple races though, right? Was that first race the one where you won the silver medal? Like those okay. Yeah. So let me ask, even before you touch that wall, we're just gonna go there. And by the way, Laura, I see you. Laura wants to ask a question. Brett Eaton, Coach Brett Eaton. It's good to see y'all. GI, I have no idea what that means. I think that's a high five. Is that a high five, Allison? Oh, it's a wave. Okay, so we're waving back. Chris Winfield, good to see you. I think you're in California, or you're going from New York to California. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Thanks for your coaching, Chris. So let's talk about this. You knew that there were people who were doped up that were standing on those blocks.
Yeah.
You knew this. Did you, like, why did you not say anything at that time?
Well, you can't really. I mean, who are you going to say something to? Like, of course, everybody on the team knows, and the coaches know, but what are they going to do? I mean, they have no influence. And it would do no good for me to say something to her, whoever was doping in the race. And so, I mean, obviously after the race is completed, you're interviewed by media, and I always wanted to say something and didn't.
Yeah.
So I was always told not to. Now looking back on that, I'm like, well, I could have said something. Especially like if at that time I wouldn't have had as much awareness and tact about it. I probably would have just said, yeah, it's frustrating that people are doping. And that would have been fine. But, nowadays I would have probably thought it out a little bit and said something this person and that person and whatever. Try to actually get a change happening. But there's nothing you can do. And that's part of the problem. Like the sporting federations make sure that athletes are quiet. They don't want athletes speaking out about this. And it's actually in writing on most athlete contracts with their federations that if they're representing their country in Olympic Games or many other competitions, you're not allowed to say anything. So what you can say is very limited. You're not supposed to say anything that will potentially disgrace the organization. And so that could be considered disgraceful. And it's quite frustrating because really the only way things are going to change is if athletes really start raising a fuss about it.
So, okay. So what are the ramifications if you spoke up? Like it's in the contract and like what? We'll take away your medal? Like we'll erase you from history? Is that
really
the threat?
all very subjective. Like you could, depending on the country, if you get the right people in charge or wrong people, I should say, they could take you off the team and send you home without finishing your Olympic competition. So that's what most people are terrified about. You know, they're like, no. I just devoted most of my life to this. There's no way. So it's not definitely going to happen. Something like that definitely might not happen, but it also could. And because it's so subjective, you'd have to know every player in the decision-making process and say something anyways and take the risk knowing what you know.
So am I hearing like it just wasn't you speaking out at the time? It felt like you were taking on a whole machine. Like it was like the whole beast if you spoke up. It
wasn't the first time for me too. The most devastating thing about the Olympics in regards to doping for me was this was time like 4 at a major competition, like world championship competition style competition. Mm-hmm. And this was the time, I think it was, maybe the 4th time at the top level competition in the sport that I was competing against somebody who was clearly doping and had clearly gotten away with it and had clearly been tested and the testing had failed. And so that's where I really got frustrated because I was always like, I'm following the rules. I'm getting tested whenever I'm asked to be tested. These people are not. I've seen it happen repeatedly. They've gotten away with not being tested and it's just not fair. You know, for me, the frustrating part was I'm showing up at this competition following the rules, not because I want to necessarily. I mean, I did want to. It wasn't a desire not to, but because they're the rules. And that was what always frustrated me. It was like, why do they get to get away with not following the rules and I have to follow the rules?
Yeah.
That's still my basic question.
I think that's a great question to ask.
Yeah. It's like,
Did you ever feel the pressure to dope yourself?
No, it was never an option. It was never a pressure. I never ran into it. I think nowadays it would probably be different with, this is like pre-internet really. So nowadays you could buy stuff online and, you know, I'm sure people have a much easier time accessing drugs that are banned substances. But back then it was never even, you know, something that came up.
Do you think it's as rampant now as it was back then?
I think in some ways it's worse, in some ways it's better.
How so?
I think it's worse because of what we saw with Russia in the 2016 games. I mean, obviously the system is completely failing. Not completely, but it's largely failing. There needs to be an overhaul of how the Olympics is policed for doping. And then the way it's better is that I think that people are held more accountable in that they are more easily tracked. I think people, for example, it's kind of sad. I don't know a ton about it, but an athlete in the U.S. Olympic Swim Team was just posted a picture on social media of himself getting a vitamin IV drip. And apparently you have to get a therapeutic use exemption to get that sort of treatment done. And he didn't know that. But because he posted a picture on his social media, he was outed. I mean,
so there is an accountability piece there.
And it wasn't doping. It's not it's not like taking a bunch of B vitamins via IV is doping, but because it's through an IV and for whatever reasons, the anti-doping agency has decided, okay, that you need to ask for permission to do. He just didn't know.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
those things are better in some senses, because some people will post pictures that will be used against them in court in some way. Not that situation, but sure. That was just a different example. But, people will share information, or there's more information able to get tracked to be of support in court cases, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's go back. You're swimming your ass off. You know that people are doped up. You're going into the mechanics of it. Your hand hits the wall. You come out of the water to go look at your numbers. You know that you're close, right? And you see that you won the silver. What was going through your head then?
I was shocked.
In what ways?
I felt like I had just been in a car wreck. Okay.
The mouth is all locked up, right?
Yeah, I still remember, if you've been in a car wreck, you kind of it's burned in your memory, Yeah. And it's not like the trauma's not healed if it's traumatic, but you still remember clearly the visuals. So anyways, I remember the visuals I saw right at the moment I touched the wall, and I was just in shock. I did what I needed to do. I beat out the bronze, the woman who won bronze, which was a competitor I highly esteemed. She had won like a bevy of Olympic gold medals in a variety of events over the past two Olympic Games. She was just amazing. I didn't know her, but I just felt proud that I touched her out. And that was kind of my thing. Like at the end of races, I could just hammer and hold on and grit and beat somebody by the littlest amount. I was like, no, I'm winning this. So I did that, and I felt good about that somewhat, but I was in shock because the woman who won was clearly doping, and I just couldn't believe that it happened again.
Okay. So I wanted to let you know that one of the pictures that I posted is you standing on the podium with the gold, your silver, and the bronze medalist. What was going through your mind then? Like, you clearly know the gold medalist is doped up, right? Has doped.
I was just being polite. Yeah, I was just being polite, doing my duty, recognizing the honor that it was to be on that podium. But I was shocked. I was just shocked that I was standing next to this monster. And,
so
and in such an honorable arena, like this is it to me, it just didn't make sense. It's like, you don't belong here. This is about pursuing excellence with honor, and you're not supposed to be here.
And so what happened when, like, when the sorry to cut you off, Allison, but the anthems play, you go off to the back, right? You probably were interviewed by a few people, like, congratulations, blah 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 blah. You're probably cheered by the Atlanta crew, A-Town, on the way back, and then you're with yourself or your people, right? Just like your most intimate group in the locker room, right? What was that like? Like, did it come out like? I
mean, not really, because well, the intimate crew, like, they're not allowed anywhere near you. Basically, when you're in Olympic Games, you don't see anything.
I don't know this.
No, I know this is probably something people don't know. Like, you can't. You have to go through rigmarole. You have to get out of the village, and you have to. I mean, it's a big deal. You can talk through a fence, but to get to people who aren't.
Wait, you guys are like quarantined?
Yeah, to get to be. Yeah, I mean,
wow, I didn't know that.
Into the Olympic Village, you have to be. I mean, it's kind of like a TSA check, but a little bit more rigid. So, anyways, I was just going through the motions. I knew I had another race to compete in. I wanted to do better, but I was exhausted, and it was not a high moment for sure. It was just kind of like, all right, well, I still have a medal. I'm just gonna, prepare for my next race.
Wow. I wanted to bring in Evie. Evie saying hi. Say hi, hello to our Olympic medalist, Jorge. Jorge, good to see you. Giving you a big old heart. Laura, I want to bring you in. I know you've been patiently waiting there, so let's bring in Laura Solomon Honeycutt, who just jumped right on. And Laura, you're live. You're live with Allison. So
hi, can you hear me?
Hi.
yeah.
Hey, Allison.
Hi.
I'm a huge fan. Thanks for speaking to us today. My question for you is how you combat negative self-talk.
Well, I combat negative self-talk, or have combated it in a variety of ways, but I think the most successful route I've taken is just being disciplined. You know, I was taught to talk to myself or think of my performances negatively and criticize them all. And there's value to looking at things critically, right? But yeah, I mean, being disciplined about what helps and what doesn't has been the basic gist of what has helped me get out of that bad loop, unhelpful loop.
Yeah, great, thanks. And just a follow up, you know, I heard you say, which I think is so accurate, that you know, the coaches are there to guide and advise and support, and that it's really about a partnership, and you have to ultimately do the work, right? Like the best coach in the world is not going to help someone who's not willing to, you know, kind of push their way forward. I'm wondering what some of your, you know, foolproof tactics are outside of having that support from a coach or the championing from external.
Did you freeze for
Laura,
you too?
Yeah, I think you froze up, Laura, but I think we got enough.
There you are.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. So what are some of the tactics that you use that you find are tried and true to build up your confidence?
Well, I think really, you know, people going on a journey to know themselves is really important, right? And then when you know yourself, you can understand, okay, that's maybe not the so great manifestation of that character trait, and that's the great part of that character trait. And what can I do to manifest or express or grow, nurture the great part of character traits? And let's see. And what else did you want to know? Sorry.
What are some of the things that you find are effective for you in building up your confidence?
Oh, just other confidence tools. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, knowing yourself, and then also, you know, focusing on things that make you happy, feel fulfilled, and not putting too much weight in what people say or what society says. You know, I'm a very eccentric person. I live in San Francisco for mostly that reason. But, you know, it's you kind of have to just, okay, this is me, and this is how I'm going to, there's only so much I can adapt to certain situations. And once you know your limits and who you are, you can really more effectively choose your environments and your company based on that knowledge. So I'd say, you know, I spent way too much time wasting energy trying to adapt to how like the average person is, or what the situation needed from me. And it can be a real big energy drain. And, you know, for me, what's been really helpful is saying, okay, well, I just can't adapt today. So I'm either going to take the hit from being in this environment that will not respond well to who I am, or I'm going to avoid the environment.
Great.
So,
Thank
you know, obviously that ideal is just to be able to be in yourself in environments that accept you and rejoice over you and all of that. But, you know, I consider myself part activist, and, you know, I'm never going to expect people to embrace me with some of the things I say. People don't want to hear this stuff, but it's the truth.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Laura, thank you so much. The love lines are open again. So we're going to bring Laura down. Thank you for being on the broadcast, Laura. I want to ask you this. So it's not 1996 anymore. you are speaking up about things, not only with the sort of the state of the Olympics, or the state that the Olympics were in, or where it's going, or what's going on. You're speaking up about a whole bunch of other things. I'm curious about Allison Wagner today, 2018. If you were to have a conversation with Allison Wagner in 1996, because you've told me a couple things that you've learned along the journey, what would you tell her?
In 1996?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. You choose, because 1996 was a wild year for you. So what would you tell her throughout the year?
After the Olympic Games.
What would you tell her before the games, and what would you tell her after the games?
Yeah, before the games, I would tell her, lots of stuff, but one of the key things I would say before the games is take the money. I turned down all money. That was a mistake. And I would tell myself before the games, isolate yourself more. I really needed to remove myself from the American team. Not that there was anything wrong with most of the situation there, but it was just too much stimulation for me. And I would have given myself some other preparation tips before the games. And then after the games, I would have told myself, just take a vacation. Drop out of life for as long as you need. Let's just set like 2 months and just go someplace and rest. And I wanted that more than anything at that time. And I just didn't feel like I could do it. So I wish I would have told myself to do that, and to have some self-reflection time, and to make some choices about what I wanted to do at that point. Not what my coach wanted me to do, not what anybody else wanted me to do. What did I want to do? So that's what I would have told myself.
And after the games?
Yeah, that's what I would have told myself after the games. Okay. Take a rest, figure out what you want to do, reflect, get away from all this, redirect your life and take advantage of this time.
So it does sound like there was a moment where you were like, I'm not going to be quiet anymore. I'm going to say what's up. And so what was that moment where you were like, I'm just going to say it. And I'm this is my platform now, or one of my platforms, the whole idea of the anti-doping campaign.
Yeah, really, I didn't ever talk about doping that much around the time of the games or after. I wish I did. But yeah, after the 2016 games is when I was like, is anybody going to say anything about
oh my gosh, right.
Like why this is a problem? Because I was just shocked at the news coverage and how little people understood why this is a problem and how the system works. And I was just finding that people were less and less interested in watching the Olympic Games. And I found that very sad, because it's this really cool thing. I mean, all these people from all over the world doing different sports and basically dedicating themselves to excellence. It's just so cool. And then
I don't know if you were like me. I don't know if you were like me when you were little, but like I used to run around like pretending I was like running with the torch and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And, like,
totally.
did you? So Wagner actually ran with the torch.
It's like you got to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just thought, wow, this is just ridiculous. It's 20 years later, and it's still cluster F.
Now. Have you held on to your medal, or do you feel like do you feel like, how do you feel when you're holding that medal? Is it a feeling of pride, or is it a feeling of this probably should have been a gold? How does that feel?
Yeah, for me, my Olympic career was barely won out on being a positive influence in my life. Like, it was mostly a bunch of trouble at the end there. And I led it, and it also, unfortunately, was just experienced unfortunate circumstances really impact my life negatively for the next about 10 years. And so I feel really strongly that shouldn't happen. And this is why I talk about doping and why it's a problem and what needs to happen to change it. And this is also why I talk about preventing abuse in sport, because that's partly what doping is. And sports should be nothing but an opportunity for young people to develop themselves and grow personally. Yeah.
So you've held your medals. You've held on to it though.
Yeah, it's in a bank nearby.
Were you not like walking around for a little bit with just like holding your medals? Were you still in Florida? You weren't walking around with your medals?
Unfortunately, I was so disgusted with it. Really, it was like being in a car wreck for me. I know that sounds ludicrous, but the fact that I had given everything to this, everything of my young life to this, and because somebody decided that for the Olympic brand, it would be better for this person to win than me, even though she was cheating. That was heart-wrenching. It was totally out of my hands, and it was for no fair reason at all. It was nothing I had done wrong.
No, there's nothing.
There was an arbitrary decision made for politics. And I was devastated that all of my hard work and my commitment to honor and excellence was just spit on by the people who had all the power.
Tiny little question, but do you think you may have spoken up sooner if you won the gold? Because that's that's the total power there, because you're like, I won and people are still doped. Like, do you ever think about that? Like, if I won the gold, I would have said something sooner.
No, because I won gold medals in races, and I set a world record against a doping athlete, like who's clearly doping, and everybody knew it. Just like this situation. So, and had tested positive. So I didn't say anything then, and I wouldn't have said anything at that time either, because it just wasn't in my realm of possibility. I was so young and very shy and quiet, and I had strong opinions and I was smart, but I also placed such esteem on my elders. And, unfortunately, as you grow older, you're like, why did I do that? Those you find out like what they were doing. You're like, oh my God. Some of those coaches were like sleeping with children. You're like, I actually respected that guy. So, it's just really disturbing when you kind of uncover the truth of it. But, like I said, I wish I'd celebrated it more, but you can only change your experience so much. And for me, it was very devastating that I had to race against somebody who was cheating, and somebody else decided just that person should win. Sure.
I wanted to talk about this as well. We talked a little bit. It was me, you, and Dr. Boswas Diener, just kind of chilling. He looks like the lead singer of Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Boswas Diener. But we were talking about life after the Olympics. Like, you dedicate so much to a specific thing for a good number of years, and it's just part of your routine, right? To the competitiveness, the water, the expecting to get gold, expecting to break records, and now all of a sudden time is moving, right? And it's like, okay, it's now time to hand over the reins to a new group of folks. How was that for you to sort of transition into the next part of your life? Were you like, I was given everything and now the best part of my life has gone? Or were you looking forward to the next part after swimming?
Oh, I was so eager to move on.
Really?
I wish I had actually moved on. Like I didn't. I kept swimming because I thought I had to. But I was so eager to move on. I had a list of things I wanted to do. I mean, I was just so excited. I loved art. As I said earlier, when I was a kid, I was all about animals, art, sport. And I dedicated all my time to sport. So I was very eager to go, okay. I mean, I was 18, 19. I wanted to discover the world. I wanted to see what else I could do with my life. It wasn't that I didn't want to compete anymore, but I was tired of it taking all my time.
Sure. Yeah. So what was the time what was the decision that you made where you were like, Okay, it's time. It's time to spend with arts and sport and movement work and taking this to the next level, taking Allison to the next level. When was that decision, or was the decision made for you? Like, was it injury?
Mark, sorry, I'm gonna have to move to get my plug resituated. So hopefully the moving doesn't bother you.
It's all good. I took my Dramamine.
Sorry about this, guys. Yeah, the decision was made for me. I got sick 2.5 years later after the Olympics, and I couldn't compete anymore. And so I dropped out of swimming and moved to Colorado, went to a Buddhist college.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, Wagner. Nice, Wagner.
Yeah.
So let's go there now. Let's talk about post Olympics. You've been a part of like things like now speaking up with the international what is it called? The Olympic Committee, right?
Yeah.
The International Olympic Committee. You've been doing things with you've always been this person that like stands up against bullies. You're talking about arts now. You're talking about animals. What is life looking like?
Well, now I do most of my work around promoting breastfeeding. So it's very health focused and sustainability in a sense. And I advocate for, Olympic anti-doping reform and preventing abuse in sports and other things I'm interested in. I mean, I have so many interests. And for me, it's always kind of like, okay, what do I hone in on and spend my time on now?
Okay, so I have to ask you this. What was the biggest aha that you took away from the time that you were at the Buddhist college?
That I already knew how to meditate. I mean, when you're a swimmer, I had no idea I was meditating so much as I was. But yeah, no, my biggest takeaway was that there was so many different perspectives on the same topic that I just really was ground into being open-minded.
Okay. And is that the beginning of your work with like doing things for like the World Happiness Summit and all that other, because you're doing a lot of work with like happiness right now as well.
Yeah, I was interested in the Buddhist college in part to discover more about myself and how I could be happier. So you really launched an inner discovery process, I would say.
Yeah, and I couldn't trick you at the beginning because I was like, are you feeling good and living life at its fullest? You're like, it's a process. I was like, I can't trick her. I can't trick her. No, what we can do is this. Allison, you've had absolutely an amazing journey and you still are on one. And I want to thank you for your time. I know that you're traveling around the world. I was part blown away in meeting you in Miami. And then I was just part like, I feel like I could talk to you about like coming up with derby names for like another 3 hours, right? Because we were trying to think of what your roller derby name would be if you're living in San Francisco.
I love roller derby. Oh my God.
We need to come up with your name quick. So any roller girls watching, let us know in the replay what we should come up with. AllisonWagner.com. All the links are there. Laura, thank you for being on the show. Art of the Olympians. Is your work, can we actually obtain your work? Or are you commissioned to do it?
I have a link to my artwork, and if anybody's interested in getting print or buying one of the pieces, just reach out through the contact. Some of them are for sale, some aren't. Yeah. Have
you done anything with honey badgers? Because that is my spirit animal.
That's my spirit animal too. That's so.
I call bullshit on that.
Oh, really? Oh, wait, hold up.
No, you have not.
Oh, I have multiple badger things.
No, you don't.
Yes. Hold on. Where did they go? There's one right here. Here's one. That's a badger.
Oh my gosh.
I have like a cute stuffed animal badger. Oh, there it is.
Oh my gosh. Wagner, you're out of control.
It's like in a dress, a badger in a dress with a book.
So I take it you've seen the video about the honey badger.
Oh, I've seen them all.
I watch it like once every week.
I'm
just get
actually
me going.
working on an animal symbology dictionary. It's something I got interested at the Buddhist college, and but what I found is there's not really a lot of great ones out there. And so I'm like halfway through, but yeah, badger is definitely going to be heavily featured since I've worked with it so much.
What is I have to ask. I mean, we're closing the show, but like, what is that? What is the symbolism of the badger? Because I'm so drawn to it.
Yeah, the badger is so resilient and not only incredibly strong and fit, but also very flexible. So this animal can adapt to anything, and most animals in the animal kingdom are just terrified of it. If they don't know it, when they interact with it, they're like, holy crap. And badgers have been known to outsmart people in their ability to fix problems. A badger was tracked climbing a mountain in the Alps just for fun. Like, they couldn't figure out what it was doing. And they think it was just building its fitness. But these animals are incredible. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I guess I have to ask you one question too, because this is a thing that keeps coming up since I was 5 in my nightmares.
Okay.
And so I was talking to a spiritualist about this, and they were like, well, what do you think it means? And I have an idea. But so I have this dream. And I haven't shared this with anybody except for maybe 3 people. I've had this dream since I was 5 that I live in murky water, which means I'm like getting pulled into the water. And so it's like, you're from Florida, so you remember that like brackish water.
Yeah.
And all I can see is like this tail, like it's something that's wrapped around me and it's pulling me under the water. And it looks like either a crocodile tail or a dinosaur tail.
Oh.
And I always wake up and like, the more I've been doing my business, the more this thing keeps showing up. Like, I'll be driving and, Florida has lakes like crazy. So every time I see a lake, I think about that. So I'm thinking about it constantly and have no idea what the symbol means. For those of you in the Beyond Resilient crew, like, you see that I have like a dragon with like 3 heads. And I was like, I'm going to like turn that into a hydra to be resilient. But like, I think there's also something else going on here. Like, what do you think? I'm just curious.
Well, I think that the Native American in me, or the Native American perspective, which makes a lot of sense to me most of the time, is that would be signifying that you need to be careful about who you're letting into your space. So, there's a way to help people and interact with people without letting them into your personal space. And it's a skill to learn how to interact with lots of different people who need help without letting them affect your inner space.
That's freaking amazing.
Yeah, I love this stuff. I mean, it's so cool. Yeah. Let's
continue to talk. Look, on your page, it shows how to reach out to you. I'm going to keep in touch because I need to, like, I mean, I opened up a Bible verse yesterday. I'm not a super Bible reader. And it said, Jesus, who's really punk rock, for those of you who don't know, he's super punk rocker. Pretty sure he played roller derby. But like, he went and said, be careful of, like, don't share your pearls with the swine. And like, that resounded with me. And having that conversation with you right now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to journal. But before we do that, I want to thank you, Allison. Allison, this is why it's been the Golden Mic. I hope you've had a good time.
Yes, I've had a great time. Sorry for the power issue, but and having to move around, but I've had a great time.
Not at all. I still want to talk to you about that book. It's in full writing mode right now, and I really want to cover some more stuff. So I know that we're going to talk about that, but more importantly, this is why the show is called The Golden Mic Live. So I want you to envision Allison Wagner. I want you to envision, with all the life and the experiences that you've gone through, that now all of a sudden a golden mic is coming down in front of you. And that golden mic, for whatever it was, any time in your life that you felt silent, suddenly this golden mic translates into every language all across the world. And everyone across the world is listening to you. So Allison Wagner, I'm going to flip the switch. And Allison, you are on the Golden Mic Live.
Do not accept cultural norms if they perpetrate injustice. That's what I would say.
Wagner, I need you to raise your hand like this. I want you to drop that golden mic like it's hot. Allison Wagner, episode 71. Laura, thank you for coming on the show. Everyone, Lori, Jorge, Evie, Chris, G.I., Brett, everyone who's been watching the show, like it, love it, share it out. This is a person who's been through a lot of experiences and will experience a lot more. I hope we have you on the show to talk more about honey badgers in the future and spirit animals and what you've got going on next. Allison, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. And now for those of you who are watching live, I've got and on the replay, I've got one final question for you. If you're living life to its fullest, if you're feeling good right now, what is your responsibility to change your society and history for the better? My name is Mark Cordone. This is Allison Wagner. This has been the Golden Mike 71. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.